Tu Yunlai then ordered for the surveillance screen to be switched back to Peng Zhelua. And as it did, the situation was getting worse and worse without a slightest improvement. Peng Zhelua was fighting 1 against 2. As Tu Yunlai continued to observe expressionlessly, he wondered if Peng Zhelua could contribute in making the enemy reveal any useful information. Back to the southeast of Linhai City, the mutant faction group from Hang City, upon encountering Takashi Takizawa and my wife, Nanako Agatsuma, the team of 20 mutants were desperately struggling to fend off against this duo using a super electromagnetic cannon and phantom sound. The battle was soon turning out to be a one-sided massacre. The entire faction, including Peng Zhelua, felt that strange changes were occurring inside their bodies. It was like a drowning person experiencing a liquid force surging in their internal organs. Peng Zhelua realized that Nanako Agatsuma's musical attack was too disturbing to his mind, so he'd better deal with her first. However, since his men were all incapacitated, he had to do it himself. Peng Zhelua made a dash towards the direction where Nanako Agatsuma was hiding, but he was immediately stopped by Takashi Takizawa. Although Takashi Takizawa kept firing his super electromagnetic cannon in rapid succession, Peng Zhelua's defenses were too powerful for him. Nanako Agatsuma saw this and suddenly knew why their leader paired her with Takashi Takizawa when he read Mayumi Takeuchi's divination. It seems she was the variable in this battle. So once again, Nanako Agatsuma used the shakuhachi in her hand to attack with music, and this time around, she increased the intensity significantly. Stunned, Peng Zhelua noticed this and felt helpless. He was bewildered that the phantom sound could actually penetrate his defenses and reach his body directly. And it was not a simple illusion attack. Peng Zhelua tried desperately to close his auditory systems to avoid being disturbed. But it was of no use even though he covered his ears tightly. It seems that there is no way to directly deal with the person hiding in the dark. In this case, I must definitely take someone with me if death comes. Peng Zhelua refused to sit and wait for death. His indestructibility was a powerful ability that combines offense and defense, so he figured that Nanako Agatsuma's little tricks, although disturbing, couldn't kill him anytime soon. Peng Zhelua also saw that Takashi Takizawa's ability was a means of long-range combat, so his attention shifted back to him, deciding to quickly close the distance between them in order to end the fight as soon as possible. As long as Takizawa Takashi was killed quickly, the ability user in the dark will not be a big deal. Thinking of this, Peng Zhelua did not dodge as Takashi Takizawa continued to aim his super electromagnetic cannon in his hand at Peng Zhelua and fired continuously. Also, in order to reach Takashi Takizawa as quickly as possible, he chose to use his body to resist. The coins that were comparable to cannonballs shot at him with lightning, causing his muscles to dent. The coins were then deeply embedded in his body as his flesh and blood shattered. However, it did not completely break through his defense. Relying on his strong physical strength, Peng Zhelua clamped those coins abruptly and suffered only superficial injuries. Peng Zhelua's golden Buddha body burst into a more dazzling light, and with this sudden outburst, he rushed straight towards Takashi Takizawa. The golden light enveloped his whole body, and in a split second, Peng Zhelua was at Takashi Takizawa's side with his golden fist aimed fiercely at his enemy's head. With widened eyes, Takashi Takizawa's pupils shrank, and his arms covered with lightning. He quickly blocked the incoming attack. As a massive boom reverberated around that entire area, the blow directly blasted Takashi Takizawa a few meters away. Nanako Agatsuma also noticed Peng Zhelua's strength, and the sound of her shakuhachi in the air became more urgent. Peng Zhelua, who was attacking Takashi Takizawa with all his strength, had no way to defend against the attack of Kamaitachi. He suddenly felt the force within him increase rapidly, and by the time he finally felt that something was flying in the air, screaming and attacking his body, it was too late. The defense of his indestructible body was extremely strong, comparable to a chariot. But no matter how tough he was, the same couldn't be said about his internal organs. They were just as fragile as the rest of his men. With a muffled groan, his indestructible body, together with the bodies of his men, expanded strangely like balloons filled with water, and then exploded with a loud poof. Colorful liquids burst out from every direction. This was Nanako Agatsuma's ability, Kamaitachi. It can make her target hallucinate through phantom sound attacks, or use the method of sound wave resonance to directly attack the internal organs of her target, and make them explode from the inside of the body. As the smoke dissipates, the exhausted Takashi Takizawa breathed a sigh of relief, a little surprised because their opponent was obviously more difficult to deal with than he thought. His arms were also numb from receiving that attack head-on. He couldn't help but think of Takeuchi Mayumi's prediction as Nanako Agatsuma approached him. What a rotten luck. He muttered to himself as Nanako Agatsuma added that the situation almost ended in an accident. Luckily, Pang Jelua's head was intact. Without my help, it would have been difficult for you to deal with this big guy, so let me have this one. Takashi Takizawa snorted. If it was one-on-one fight, I could definitely beat him. It's just that he has too many helpers, which wasted a lot of my energy. Nanako Agatsuma teased and exposed Takashi Takizawa mercilessly. Forget it. His ability restrained you, but I am the one who restrained him. It's clear that I was the main force in this operation. Takashi Takizawa disagrees, but he was powerless to refute because it was indeed the case in reality. After all, if a mutant's ability is restrained, they become a sitting duck, unable to exert even half of their strength. Fine, next time the source of power will be mine. Nanako Agatsuma ignored Takashi Takizawa's attitude and proceeded to absorb Pang Jelua's ability on her own. Meanwhile, in the combat command center of Blizzard City, the surveillance screen had disappeared one by one and turned into tiny snowflakes. As the battle continued, the equipment they used to observe the situation on the scene were also damaged one by one. After a thorough observation, Tu Yunlai never saw any of the factions gaining the upper hand on the battlefield. Instead, within less than 5 minutes of the start of the battle, 3 forces were completely wiped out, and an hour later the last force also lost contact. Tu Yunlai still thought of all this indifferently without saying a word. A staff at the Combat Command Center quickly presented a USB drive, containing all the recorded information they could gather about the Eclipse group members. According to our status report, all 10 mutant teams were annihilated. However, the communicator has received and sorted out all the battle analysis data between the 10 mutant teams and the Eclipse team members. There was no expression on Tu Yunlia's face, but the fluctuation in his eyes could not be concealed. Got it. I'm going to report to Zhuzhang. The scene shifts back inside the shopping mall in Linhai City. Feng Guangyuanjin only ate a little, then came to the window, put his hands in his pockets, and leisurely stared at the city in front of him. Linhai City was not a big city in the southeastern coastal area of China, but it is quite prosperous. However, for Feng Guangyuanjin, who came from Tokyo, there is a unique charm here. It is the calm and heavy feeling from the continental plate. The Japanese have had a deep sense of crisis since 100 years ago. The instability of the island country has always made them dream of becoming a land country. After the end of the world, the panic of being isolated on the sea island has become more and more serious. So much so that the radical landing faction like them began to grow and develop. And the Eclipse group is the most radical pioneer among this group of people. The door was suddenly opened, and the team members who had gone out to perform the mission came back one after another. Some of them looked relaxed, while others had minor injuries. The chief engineer Yen Jin was still wearing a suit, sitting leisurely on a sofa, and his calm expression showed how easy this mission was for him. The members of the Eclipse team all had smiles on their faces, talking about the opponents they had met and how they had defeated them. At this time, a dragging sound came from outside the door, then followed by a loud bang as something hit the door. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw Tsukamoto Nobunaga lazily pushing the door open, with the long sword slung diagonally at his side. And in his left hand, he was dragging a brutally battered person. Jinguji Saikiro saw the man and frowned slightly. "Is this the prisoner you captured?" Tsukamoto Nobunaga looked at him and replied lazily, "We can't just focus on killing people. After all, we are facing a huge force. So it would be great if we could get some information about them." Tsukamoto Nobunaga looked down at Li Tianlong, the leader of the Yunzhou city, and continued, "This guy is a leader, so he should know a lot of information." Li Tianlong suddenly realized with widened eyes and shouted with his remaining strength, "Damn you Japanese bastards. If you want to kill me, just do it. I won't say a word. Did you hear me? Not a fucking word." Tsukamoto Nobunaga frowned slightly. He clearly didn't understand what Li Tianlong was saying, so he motioned as to ask who understood what their prisoner just said. At this time, Shishimono Satoru, who had been staying there to cook, spoke up with a smile. "There is a matching translation system on the combat uniform." Hearing this, Tsukamoto Nobunaga replied that he doesn't like wearing that thing. The reason was that it affects his speed of using the sword. "I'd better do it then." Shishimono Satoru shrugged helplessly as he crouched down near the weak Li Tianlong. "Don't even think about it." Li Tianlong stared up at Shishimono Satoru and said in his most ferocious tone at this moment. But no matter how he looked at it, he looked extremely weak. Shishimono Satoru just smiled, not angry at all. "It doesn't matter, you will tell me regardless of what you say." Li Tianlong laughed weakly and sneered, stating that Shishimono Satoru was dreaming. But his voice stopped abruptly as a pair of empty hands stretched out from Shishimono Satoru's chest and then fiercely inserted into Li Tianlong's head. Shishimono Satoru's hands were placed on both sides of his head. Li Tianlong's eyes rolled back and he became demented. With a slight thud, Li Tianlong's head fell on the floor lifelessly when Shishimono Satoru was done. It seems Li Tianlong had lost consciousness. Shishimono Satoru stood up and pushed his glasses with a smile. "Boss, I've managed to collect all the information about them. This time, we really made a big fuss." Suddenly, Shishimono Satoru's smile gradually became perverted, and he looked excited, like a middle school boy who had done something earth-shattering. "The entire Jiangnan region is now besieging us. They really want to kill us. I didn't expect that we could cause such a big commotion after escaping from the critical moment back home and coming here." Hearing this, Jinguji Saikairo placed a hand on his forehead and looked at him with disgust and worry. "What's there to be happy about? This situation will only cause us unnecessary trouble." Shishimono Satoru ignored his advice and said being targeted by one of the 6 major regions of China was really cool. Jinguji Saikairo replied in a deep voice, "If they are really irritated and use all their strength to deal with us, even with Mayumi, I'm afraid we won't be able to escape unscathed." Hearing this, Shishimono Satoru suddenly made a face at Jinguji Saikairo. "Don't worry, Uncle Jinguji. I have just confirmed this." His glasses reflected a strange and dim light as he continued. "Of the 6 top-level investigation teams in the Jiangnan region, only 2 are left at the headquarters, and one of them had just lost a captain-level combat force. So now is our best chance." When Fengguang Yuanjin heard what Shishimono Satoru just said, a wicked smile appeared on his face. He crossed his arms and said leisurely, "Satoru, tell everyone about the memory you spied on." Shishimono Satoru, a psychic ability user, with the ability codename Zinxingui, can spy on other people's memories. Shishimono Satoru raised a finger and spoke passionately. He was very serious when talking about business. There are still 13 cities in the Jiangnan region guarded by large-scale mutant organizations, and their headquarters is Blizzard City. Shishimono Satoru spent some time telling everyone the important memories he spied on from Li Tianlong's mind. After listening to it, Fengguang Yuanjin spoke in a serious tone. He was making a battle plan based on this. "The forces that attacked us today should be from the 12 outer cities. They pose little threat to us, so it means that the real threat will come from the official forces in Blizzard City. Blizzard City can't spare any help for the time being, and judging from the fact that they sent troops from the outer cities to deal with us, they don't want to lose their elite troops." Jinguji Saikairo added questionably, "In other words, there is room for negotiation, right?" Fengguang Yuanjin nodded, "Maybe not in the past. You know, before this siege, we may not have had the opportunity to negotiate with Blizzard City, but now..." He opened his arms and smiled boldly. "We will use our strength to let them see that we have the qualifications to negotiate with them." Jinguji Saikairo said slowly, "But I don't think they will agree to our request so easily. After all, the real elite troops have not been dispatched yet. The people sent here this time were just the vanguard to test our strength. The next one to come should be their 6 major investigation teams." He continued with a stern look. "When that battle eventually takes place, it may be tough and the outcome may also be gruesome. After all, they are a special operations force at the regional level, and their strength is totally different from that of the people we just fought." Except from Fengguang Yuanjin, the smiles on everyone's faces immediately vanished when they heard this. They all stared at Jinguji Saikairo as Fengguang Yuanjin's face lit up. "Isn't this something that we must experience?" he questioned. "If we want to take root in this land and complete the first step of our adventure, we must go through a fierce battle." Fengguang Yuanjin's smile did not diminish at all, and he even continued with some pride. "Our adventure should be more like Columbus, who discovered the New World, died in a battle with the natives. But his discovery has brought about a huge change in the world's pattern and brought huge wealth to his country. As pioneers, we will also be recorded in history in the future." Fengguang Yuanjin gave a passionate speech, and his heroic and confident voice was full of powerful appeal. Shishimono Satoru readily agreed. "That's right, boss. We are the pioneers. We have the first right to enjoy this land." Tsukamoto Nobunaga added that as a warrior, he would never back down, and the excited Nanako Agatsuma comments that she couldn't wait. Fengguang Yuanjin then looked at the shrine maiden, Takeuchi Mayumi, who had been sitting quietly on the side. "What's more, we still have this trump card, so good luck will always be on our side." Although everyone had different expressions on their faces, the moment they agreed to follow Fengguang Yuanjin on the icebreaker, they have been mentally prepared. At this time, Shishimono Satoru suddenly pointed at the unconscious Li Tianlong. "Hey, is this guy still useful? If not, I'm going to devour him." his face lit up with glee. Tsukamoto Nobunaga could spare the life of this Delta-level mutant without caring. But Shishimono Satoru was willing to enjoy this delicacy. Fengguangyu Wenjin replied him, stating that Li Tianlong was still useful. He tilted his neck and grabbed his chin with his right hand. We will release him and let him take a message to the top leaders of the Jiangnan district. After all, we are pacifists and do not like fighting and killing. It would be great if we could negotiate peacefully. Meanwhile, back in Blizzard City, inside the headquarters building of the combat center, specifically Zhu Zhang's office, Tu Yunlai personally reported to Zhu Zhang and handed him the damage assessment of the war. Zhu Zhang read the reported documents and his eyes became sharper to the point that they shook with unsuppressed fury. This is impossible. Zhu Zhang slapped the documents in his hand on the table with a snap. No matter how strong the Eclipse group is, they can't easily wipe out our 10 mutant teams. Something that even our investigation team can't do. Not to mention effortlessly. In less than an hour, 13 people from the Eclipse group killed all 10 of their mutant troops. And to add insult to injury, most of them did so without even going all out. Also, the leaders of each mutant army was a somewhat Delta-level powerhouse. If it was really the 6 major investigation teams, it would not be possible for them to do it so cleanly and effortlessly. Tu Yunlai said in a low voice, according to common sense, such a result is indeed impossible. This is on our territory. We have almost all the advantages such as time, place, and people. Logically speaking, they should be like blind people being played around by us. At worst, they will suffer losses. However, I anticipated all the possibilities, but I didn't expect this result. So I think that the other party has some way to grasp our intelligence. Zhu Zhang stared at Tu Yunlai and was not in the mood for any cryptic words. So in a calm tone, he said word by word. If you have anything to say, just say it directly. Don't play dumb. I'm neither in the mood nor do I have the patience. Hearing this, Tu Yunlai spoke directly. Based on my observations, there are 2 possibilities for such outcome. Either there is a traitor in the operations department who has leaked the information and location of the 10 mutant troops in some way. Or, one of the mutants of the other party has the ability to conduct reconnaissance and accurately grasps all our actions and personnel dispatches. He pointed to the reports on the table. We have analyzed it carefully, and the most important reason why the Eclipse Moon team were able to win so quickly was that the mutants they sent out just happened to have the ability to restrain the teams in the corresponding positions. You should understand that in a sudden encounter, if the ability is restrained, the mutants' combat effectiveness will be greatly reduced. Even if they aren't completely restrained, the mutant is still equivalent to a useless person. Tu Yunlai put his hands behind his back, the lower half of his face hidden under his military cap. We don't have enough information about the Eclipse Moon organization. Originally, we could have asked the Japanese to provide information about their abilities. Zhu Zhang's face darkened, but his tone was still calm. What you said does make sense. But those cunning guys, on the grounds that these people are Ronin who are not affiliated with the Japanese official, did not provide any key information at all. They hope that these guys will turn the world upside down in our country. So how can they help us sincerely? But even so, what can we do? Zhu Zhang's tone suddenly became a little harsh. We can't take care of a mere Ronin organization. In fact, many countries and regions have already known about this matter and are waiting to see what will happen. Therefore, we must win this battle beautifully and let them see that our country can't be controlled by just anybody. They must die on this land and be executed by our own hands. Only in this way can we demonstrate our strength and deter the surrounding villains. Tu Yunlai certainly understood Zhu Zhang's anger. Although he didn't talk much, there was already a blazing fire burning in his eyes, as if he could destroy everything. Commander Zhu Zhang, at this point, we simply can't let them continue to be so arrogant. I beg to personally lead the team and go to Linhai City to annihilate this group of Ronin. Zhu Zhang didn't even think about it and directly rejected Tu Yunlai's proposal. No, you and the Yenyun troops are the most important force to guard Blizzard City, and you must never leave. It is your responsibility to protect our base camp. Zhu Zhang crossed his hands, took a deep breath, and stared at the ceiling. The strength of the mutant organizations in the outer city is still too weak. Without systematic training, they will be fooled when they encounter slightly stronger enemies. To deal with the Eclipse group the next time around, we have to let the people from the investigation team go. Tu Yunlai's eyes condensed. Commander, forgive me for being blunt, but our opponent this time is a little unusual. At present, only the Heavenly Gods team and the Black Robe Squad are able to act. However, since the death of Bian Junwu, the Black Robe Squad has been severely weakened and can no longer complete an A-level mission. And as for the Heavenly Gods Squad, Tu Yunlai paused for a moment before continuing. Deng Shintong's character is still a little immature and not stable enough. I am not very reassured. The corners of Zhu Zheng's mouth curled up slightly. Tu Yunlai and Deng Shintong's personalities have always been at odds with each other, and he knows that. The Heavenly God Squad now has the highest points among the 6 major investigation teams, and their missions have always been completed smoothly. We should believe in their strength. But what you said makes some sense. Zhu Zheng's eyes narrowed slightly, and his hands were placed under his chin. We can't experience another failure, so this time we not only need to send the Heavenly God Squad, we also need to gather more forces. Tu Yunlia's eyes lit up. Then I will take 500 Yenyun guards with me. No. Again, Zhu Zhang rejected him directly. I already made it clear that this isn't your task. The pillars of Blizzard City are the 6 major investigation teams and the 5,000 Yenyun guards. The investigation team is responsible for external investigations and suppressing unrest, while the Yenyun guards are responsible for guarding Blizzard City. If any of them has problems, it will be an unacceptable loss for Blizzard City. Zhu Zhang implements military management in Blizzard City, so he must have strict discipline and not let anyone overstep their responsibilities without authorization. Otherwise, if this precedent is set, there will be major problems in internal management in the future. Tu Yunlai really didn't want to lose this opportunity to showcase the extent of his strength against a tough enemy. But seeing Zhu Zheng's firm attitude, he stopped talking. Tapping a finger on the reported documents, Zhu Zhang thought for a while and said, "We need to mobilize a group of powerful mutants from other cities. The main purpose of the last battle was to find out the bottom line, but now we have to select the generals. We must gather those mutants with outstanding strength together. This strategy must be successful in one battle." Then, Zhu Zhang immediately called and ordered his secretary Lan Xinqing to take charge of this matter. As for the candidates needed for the selection, he already had an idea in his mind. The intelligence of the Jiangnan district was no joke after all. Zhu Zhang told Tu Yunlai to head out first while he takes care of another matter. The moment the director of the operations department left, Zhu Zhang got up from his seat and walked towards his office window, and simply stared at the vast city below. After a while, he heard a knock on his door. Zhu Zhang told the person to come in as he walked back to his seat. Seconds after, Lan Xinqing confidently opened the door and entered, holding a stack of documents. She brought Zhu Zhang an interesting intelligence. "Commander, in the past few days, a very interesting thing happened in Tianhai City." When Lan Xinqing said this, she had a strange look in her eyes. Zhu Zhang couldn't help but stare at Lan Xinqing curiously. The most important task now is to deal with the Eclipse Moon organization in Linhai City. But Lan Xinqing's sudden mention of Tianhai City must not be without reason. After all, she was not a rookie. Oh, what happened there? Tianhai City. I clearly remember that it is the territory of that guy named Zhang Yi, right? Zhu Zhang still had some impression of Zhang Yi, vaguely remembering that he was a powerful mutant. But Tianhai City has been destroyed and needs to be guarded by strong people. In addition, Zhang Yi's team is too small and does not seem to be particularly powerful. In fact, Zhu Zhang did not plan to let them join the next operation. Lan Xinqing looked at the report in her hand and read it slowly. According to the intelligence of the investigation department, a day ago, the 3 large mutant organizations in Days City integrated a large team and entered the territory of Tianhai City. The team was led by 3 Delta-level mutants, 872 elite warriors, of which 72 were mutants. They also carried a large amount of weapons and ammunition. When Zhu Zhang heard this, his brows frowned deeply. They went to attack Tianhai City. These damn guys. At this time, they actually ignored the regulations of the region to kill each other. The Jiangnan Superpower Federation had just been established, and it was clearly stipulated that conflicts between mutant factions against various cities were not allowed. But within a few days after this meeting, they started fighting over territories again. This clearly showed that they were not taking them seriously. Zhu Zhang was just a little angry. Currently, he couldn't send troops to help Tianhai City. The Jiangnan region was indeed very strong, but they can't completely govern the entire region. They can only use absolute military advantage to deter and suppress. This is why Zhu Zhang wants to establish a federation. He sighed helplessly, already ahead of himself. Forget it. With the current strength of Tianhai City, I'm afraid it has already fallen, right? Lan Xinqing looked at Zhu Zhang with a strange look. Actually, Commander, the exact opposite was what transpired. According to the latest intelligence, Tianhai City is very quiet now, and there is no sign of any exchange of fire. On the contrary, the teams from Days City has completely disappeared. Disappeared. Zhu Zhang's expression froze for a moment as he stared at Lan Xinqing with a puzzled look.